We're live in 3, 2, 1. Inside a stunning international news studio in Geneva, world flags shimmered under glowing LED lights. The panel discussion was meant to be civil, a conversation about global aid, Africa's independence, and military leadership. But something felt off. Captain Ibrahim Traoré sat calmly on one end, his posture straight, eyes focused. He wore his iconic green beret and Faso Danfani sash. Opposite him was U.S. President Donald Trump, visibly agitated, arms crossed, lips twitching. The moderator asked politely, "Mr. Trump, your thoughts on Africa's growing resistance to foreign aid?" Trump leaned forward, lips curled. Then, the room changed. "You don't belong here," he roared, pointing directly at Traoré. "You're an ingrate. Africa should be grateful we even care." Gasps filled the studio. The camera zoomed in. Journalists froze. One even dropped her pen. A quiet, "Oh my God," slipped from a producer's lips. But Traoré didn't blink. He sat still, eyes locked on Trump. Then he slowly turned to face the camera, his gaze sharp, unshaken. The silence was unbearable. And that's when the world knew. Something historic was about to happen. Captain Traoré's eyes didn't leave the camera. For a moment, the entire studio seemed frozen in time. No cough, no movement. Only the heavy breathing of a room unsure how to react. Then Traoré's voice cut through the tension. Calm. Even. Deep. "You say we should be grateful," he began slowly. "Grateful for what? For soldiers that bomb our villages while calling it peacekeeping? For stealing gold and giving back lectures?" Trump shifted, uncomfortable. But Traoré wasn't finished. He turned to the audience behind the cameras, the millions watching around the world. "My people are not beggars. We are not insects. We are human. We are proud. And we are tired." A tear rolled down the cheek of a young African reporter in the corner. Social media exploded. Clips from the live stream flooded TikTok and Twitter. Memes, hashtags. Some were stunned, others furious. Most were just silent, trying to absorb what they had just witnessed. Backstage, Trump's advisor whispered, "He just flipped the entire narrative." But inside the studio, Captain Traoré simply folded his hands. The storm had just begun, and somehow everyone knew. He hadn't even said his most powerful words yet. Back in Ouagadougou, a young Burkina boy named Salif watched the interview from a small TV balanced on a broken plastic chair. His mother stood behind him, silent, her hand pressed to her heart. "Is that our president?" Salif whispered. "Yes," she said. "That's the man who said no for all of us." Meanwhile, inside the Geneva studio, the moderator tried to move on. "Captain Traoré, we appreciate your perspective. But what do you say to critics who claim your leadership is too aggressive?" Traoré smiled almost sadly. "I say they've never listened." He reached into his inner coat pocket and pulled out a small USB stick. Cameras zoomed in. "This," he said, "is a recording the world was never meant to hear." Trump's face tightened. His hand gripped the table. The moderator leaned forward. "What's on it?" Traoré placed it gently on the table. "The truth," he replied. A sound engineer in the control room scrambled to load the file. What played next silenced the entire planet. An American general's voice, crackly and unaware he was being recorded. "As long as we control their gold, they'll never really be free." The silence in the studio, deafening. Traoré had just lit the match. The sound of the recorded voice lingered in the studio, a cold, casual confession that pierced the air like a sharp knife. "As long as we control their gold, they'll never really be free." The room went deathly quiet. Cameras didn't blink. The usual hum of conversation vanished. Everyone's eyes were locked on Captain Traoré. Donald Trump's expression twisted, a rare flicker of doubt crossing his face. But he quickly masked it with a tight smile. his hand tightening into a fist on the desk. The moderator cleared his throat, voice shaky. "Captain, this tape. What do you want the world to understand?" Traoré's eyes flashed with quiet fire as he spoke. "This is the truth many tried to bury. The truth about power and exploitation. But Africa's story is not one of helplessness. It is one of resilience, strength, and courage." Behind the cameras, viewers across continents held their breath. A generation who had only heard half the story now faced a reality too painful to ignore. The world was watching, and something had just shifted. In a small village in Burkina Faso, Salif's hands trembled as he switched off the TV. His mother's eyes were wet with tears. "Did you hear that, Salif?" He spoke for us all. Salif looked up, voice filled with a mix of fear and hope. "Will it change things, Mama? Will the world finally listen?" His mother hugged him tight, whispering, "It must. Captain Traoré is not just a leader. He's our voice when we have none." That night Salif sat beneath the stars, thinking of the captain's courage. He made a promise to himself, no matter how hard the road, he would fight to make his country proud. Thousands of miles away, social media exploded. "Respect Traoré" trended. People shared the clip of Traoré's calm yet powerful words. Leaders scrambled to respond. Some praised him, others tried to dismiss him. But the people knew. Traoré's voice was the start of a movement. Morning light poured into Traoré's office in Ouagadougou. His face was calm, but his heart heavy. Messages poured in. Calls from world leaders, letters from citizens, warnings from enemies. The weight of expectations pressed down. His team gathered, looking to him for direction. But Traoré stood silent, eyes distant. He thought of the soldiers on the front lines, the children like Salif waiting for a brighter future, the mothers who hoped for peace. Finally he spoke, voice steady. "We do not fight for ourselves alone. We fight for dignity, for justice, for those who cannot speak." The room filled with quiet determination. As he stepped out for a press conference, cameras flashed. His words were clear, fearless. "Africa will no longer be silenced. Our time is now." The world listened, and a new chapter had begun. News outlets everywhere exploded. Headlines screamed about the confrontation between Donald Trump and Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Social media was ablaze. A Traoré truth and phrase "Respect Africa" trended worldwide. Millions shared the video of Traoré's calm, fearless response, his eyes steady and his voice unwavering. In cafes, markets, and homes across Africa, people felt seen for the first time in a long while. The world was finally hearing their story, raw, painful, and true. Governments scrambled to respond. Some backed Traoré's calls for respect and sovereignty. Others issued cautious statements, trying to calm the storm. Meanwhile, international analysts debated if this was the start of a new era. But the people weren't waiting for politics. They shared stories of their own struggles and hopes, inspired by Traoré's courage. Back in the studio, Trump sat silently, watching the replay. He no longer shouted. He seemed smaller, quieter. The power of Traoré's words had broken through. A young intern whispered, "That man, he's more than a leader. He's a voice for millions." In Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso, the atmosphere changed overnight. Streets that were once quiet buzzed with energy. Posters of Captain Traoré appeared everywhere. Children sang songs about pride and freedom. Salif, the young boy who had watched the broadcast, felt a fire ignite in his chest. He told his friends, "We are not alone. We have a leader who fights with words and with heart." His mother smiled, tears in her eyes, seeing the hope returning to her son's face. Traoré's message reached beyond politics. It touched the soul of a nation hungry for dignity. At schools, teachers discussed his words. In markets, vendors spoke with new confidence. Even those who had lost hope found strength in his calm defiance. One elderly woman said, "For the first time, I feel my grandchildren will live proud, not afraid." Traoré's courage had awakened a nation. Despite the rising storm, Captain Traoré remained grounded. He spent long hours with his team, planning and listening. His calm was not weakness, but a deep well of strength. Late one evening, alone in his office, he opened a worn photo album. Pictures of his childhood friends, his family, and the struggles of his people filled the pages. He whispered to himself, "I carry their hopes. I cannot fail." The next day, during a tense meeting with foreign diplomats, Traoré's voice was steady as he spoke of justice, sovereignty, and the future of Africa. He refused to be intimidated. His strength was quiet but unbreakable. Outside the meeting room, a journalist wrote, "Captain Traoré is not just resisting insults. He's leading a movement built on respect, courage, and truth." The world was beginning to see him not only as a leader but as a symbol of unwavering hope. As the days passed, the pressure on Captain Traoré grew heavier. International news crews camped outside his office. Politicians sent veiled warnings. Yet the people stood behind him more fiercely than ever. One afternoon, in a quiet moment, Traoré sat with his closest advisors. His face was tired but resolute. "We cannot let fear stop us," he said softly. "This is bigger than me. It's about our dignity and the future of Africa." Behind the scenes, powerful forces tried to silence him. Threats whispered through diplomatic channels. But Traoré's calm was unshaken. That evening, a young soldier from the front line visited the capital. He looked at Traoré and said, "Sir, your words give us strength to keep fighting. You make us believe again." Traoré smiled faintly, thinking of every man and woman risking their lives for freedom. The world was watching, and with every challenge, Traoré's voice grew stronger. In schools across Burkina Faso, teachers began reading excerpts from Traoré's speeches to their students. Children who once felt invisible now heard words of hope and pride. Salif, the boy who watched the studio broadcast months ago, wrote a letter to Traoré. "Dear Captain, you give us courage. I want to be like you, brave and calm." Traoré received thousands of letters like this, messages from children, mothers and fathers, who saw in him the promise of a better tomorrow. One afternoon, Traoré visited a local school. He sat with the children, listening to their stories and dreams. He told them, "Your future is yours to write. No one can take your dignity away." Tears welled in the eyes of a young girl who whispered, "Thank you, Captain. You believe in us." For Traoré, these moments were the real victory, the chance to inspire a generation to rise. The night before a critical international summit, Traoré sat alone in his office. The city lights shimmered below, but inside him, a storm of thoughts raged. Could he bear the weight of so many hopes? Was the world truly ready to listen? He thought of Salif, the children, the mothers waiting for peace. Then, a single photo caught his eye, a picture of his father, a humble farmer who had taught him the meaning of honor. Traoré whispered a promise to himself, "I will not fail them." He prepared for tomorrow, knowing that the world would soon hear his most important words yet. The dawn would bring a test unlike any before. The Grand Hall buzzed with tension as world leaders gathered for the international summit. Flags waved, cameras flashed, but all eyes were drawn to one man, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He entered quietly but with a commanding presence. His calm eyes scanned the room full of powerful faces. As discussions began, old alliances were challenged. Traoré spoke not with anger, but with firm dignity. "We are here not to beg, but to negotiate as equals," he declared. "Africa's voice must be heard, respected, and acted upon." Whispers spread. Some scoffed, others nodded slowly, realizing the weight of his words. Meanwhile, Trump watched from the sidelines, his earlier fury replaced by a new respect tinged with frustration. The summit stretched long into the night. Traoré's calm and clear vision left many shaken. Outside, millions followed the live stream, hearts pounding. This was not just a political event. It was history unfolding. On the second day, a heated debate erupted over economic policies and foreign aid. Trump tried to interrupt, but Traoré's steady voice cut through the noise. "Aid is not charity," he said firmly. "It is a partnership built on respect and accountability. Without it, we remain trapped." His words struck a chord with several leaders who had long doubted the old ways. Slowly, the room shifted. The old guard began to see the possibility of change. Back in Burkina Faso, Salif's school held a special assembly to watch the summit. As Traoré's words filled the room, children sat quietly, eyes wide. They saw not just a leader, but a symbol of their future, a future where dignity and strength led the way. The summit ended with a groundbreaking agreement. Africa would gain new respect and more control over its resources. Traoré's vision had not just been heard, it had been embraced. As he left the summit hall, surrounded by reporters and flashing cameras, his smile was small but full of hope. In the streets of Ouagadougou, celebrations erupted. People danced, sang, and cried tears of joy. Salif and his mother stood among them, holding hands tightly. "This is only the beginning," Traoré said in a live interview later. "Our fight continues, but today we take a step toward a better future." The world had witnessed a quiet victory, a leader who fought with courage, calm, and an unbreakable spirit. The celebrations in Ouagadougou were joyful but brief. Captain Traoré knew the road ahead was long and difficult. Behind closed doors, he met with his advisors, discussing plans for rebuilding, reform, and healing. The responsibility felt immense. One evening, as the city quieted, Traoré stood on his balcony, staring at the stars. He thought of the countless faces depending on him, the children like Salif, the mothers praying for peace, the soldiers risking everything. Tears welled in his eyes, not of weakness, but of overwhelming hope. He whispered to the night, "I carry your dreams. I will not let you down." This was not just his fight. It was the fight of a generation yearning for justice, respect, and freedom. In villages and cities, the people spoke of Traoré with pride. Stories of his calm strength and unwavering resolve spread like wildfire. He visited schools, hospitals, and markets, listening, comforting, and inspiring. His humility touched hearts deeply. One day, Salif met Traoré again, this time in person. Their eyes met, and the boy knew his promise to himself was shared. Traoré smiled and said, "The future belongs to you, Salif. Keep your head high and your heart strong." Around the world, millions saw a new kind of leader. Not loud or boastful, but steady, courageous, and full of love for his people. Years later, the world looked back on that historic moment, the day Traoré faced down power with truth and calm. His words had sparked change far beyond expectations. The countries of Africa stood taller, united in dignity and purpose. Children dreamed bigger, mothers wept tears of relief. And the world remembered. The man who was called an ingrate became a hero, a symbol of hope and resilience. As the story ends, remember this: change begins with one voice, one calm heart, and a fierce belief in justice. If this story moved you, if Captain Ibrahim Traoré's courage touched your soul, please hit like, subscribe, and comment below. Share your thoughts and feelings. Let's keep his legacy alive together. Your voice matters,